Hey everyone, I'm Ms. Mulkowski, the mathematician, and today we're going to talk about adding complex numbers. All right, so this is another SAT question, okay, with your ABCD answer. So, possible answers. So for I equals the square root of -1, what is the sum 4 plus 5i plus the quantity -6 plus I? All right, so the first thing that we notice is it's addition, which is fantastic because if it's addition, it just means we're adding what's in here. So all the signs hold and we can just remove the parentheses. So I'm just gonna rewrite that here. Ooh, okay. So we've got 4 plus 5i, because remember I just removed the parentheses, plus -6 plus I. All right, now that's because it's addition, and with addition we don't have to, like if it had been subtraction, we would have had to distribute the negative because we're adding the opposite of everything that's in here. But if we're just adding, we're adding what's in there, so everything holds, all the signs hold. So this is super easy. At this point, we are just going to combine like terms. So we've got, let me see here, 4 and plus -6. So we know that 4 plus -6 is -2. And then plus, I'm just going to write plus. And then if it ends up being negative, I'll just put a negative in front of it. Let's see, I got two terms of I. So 5i plus I, and that's going to be 6i. Okay. Now, I have sometimes seen when students do 5i plus I, they write 5i squared. They get a little confused when there's no coefficient here. So what I want you to know is if you ever have just I or just X or just Y or just Q, whatever the variable is, if there's nothing in front, it means 1 is there. And if you want to put 1 in there, if you want to kind of add the coefficient of 1 in there to make sure you don't make a mistake when adding them, absolutely do it. Of course, if your answer results in 1x or 1i or something like that, remove the 1 for your final answer. But while you're working through the problem, absolutely put your coefficient of 1 in there if it's going to help you solve it. So 5i plus 1i is 6i. And then I'll just write it nicely in all the same color here. So it's going to be -2 plus 6i is our answer, which over here is C. Okay, so the answer to this was C. Okay, so because this is an SAT question, I'm going to talk about other aspects of this question and what to watch out for. So first, for I equals the square root of -1. A lot of students get confused with that. They don't know what to do with it. They're like, why is that there? All that that's telling you is that we are dealing with imaginary numbers. We're dealing with complex numbers, okay? I is not just a variable like X. It means the square root of -1. It is the square root of -1. So basically, if you end up with an I squared when doing something, you need to replace that with -1 and simplify further, okay? That's the only reason that that's there, is it's telling you that we're dealing with I as in an imaginary number and not just a variable I. So don't get thrown off by that. I often tell students, don't even worry about it. Just add, you know what I mean? And because usually that's there just for clarification as opposed to being necessary. I mean, sometimes additional pieces of information are necessary, like they say if X is greater than 0, and if you end up with two answers and one's negative and one's positive, that piece of information, not this specific piece of information, but in another problem, if they had said X is greater than 0, then that would have helped you pick the correct answer. You know what I mean? So that is just telling you we're dealing with imaginary numbers, complex numbers here, okay? You know, we have the real part and the imaginary part, and we're adding them. So don't worry about that. So now we come down to all the answers and what are the traps here? So if you notice in the first one, we ended up with a 6i, okay, for the imaginary part, and this also has a 6i. So they're banking on you making sure you get that right. But then it's 10. So how did that happen? Well, you have 4 and you have -6. What they're thinking you do is remember how I said you can just remove the parentheses? What they're hoping that you can do, because remember, or not hoping that you can do, but hoping that you do, remember, you are taking this time, so you are under pressure and you are more likely to make a silly mistake because of that, okay? They're thinking that when you remove the parentheses, you just drop the negative. You just like forget it was there. Not forget it was there, but you're moving so fast that you don't pull the negative with it and you end up writing it like this. And when you write it like that, that would be 10, right? 4 plus 6 is 10. So they're thinking that you're going to be moving quickly and you're going to forget about the negative, okay? And that's what would result in this answer, okay? So we know that's wrong. We now know what the trap is. So when you're rewriting it, make sure you pull all those signs. Double check. if I'm rewriting it and I remove the parentheses, did I make sure I pulled the negative? And if you didn't, make sure you pull it, okay? Perfect. The second incorrect answer. So the second incorrect answer, they're thinking that when you rewrote it or did whatever, that you wrote it as subtraction instead of addition. So look at this. If we have 4 plus 5i and then we did minus negative 6 plus I. So remember, if that's the case, we need to distribute the negative because we change it. We say that subtraction is like adding the opposite. So we add and then the opposite of negative 6 is 6 and the opposite of I is negative I. And then if we simplify that, we have 10. And then for this piece, 5 plus negative I, that's going to be 4i. Boom. And that's how you would get B. So the trap here is that you accidentally thought it was subtraction when it was addition, okay? So that's wrong. C is our correct answer. And then for the last one, remember negative 2, so they think you did that part correctly, 4 plus negative 6 is negative 2, and then they just think that maybe you were writing quickly and because you saw the negative here, you accidentally made I a negative, because if you did that, you'd end up with 4 plus 5i, and then plus negative 6, and then if you accidentally wrote like minus I for whatever reason, because again, you're going fast, and they do that a lot where one of the answer choices will be like the adding it or subtracting it, you know what I'm saying? Because if you're going quickly and this was subtraction in the first, so maybe your brain is moving so quickly that you're like, oh, this was negative and this is negative. No, it's not. So that's the incorrect answer. So there you go. So keep all of those things in mind. The reason I tell you what traps you can fall into, the reason I explain them is because if you know what they are, you know what to be careful of. So I recommend you watch this video a lot of times, or you try it yourself, watch it again, pause, and try yourself to think of what are the traps, or what are the mistakes I could make that would result in these other answer choices. Because then when you're doing the test, you can say, oh wait, did I fall for one of those traps? You know what I mean? Did I make a mistake because I, made something negative or lost a sign when I shouldn't have or something like that? So it's just good to keep all those things in mind. So there you go. Hey everyone, I'm Ms. Milkowski, the mathematician, and I hope you found that last video helpful. If you have any questions or if there are any topics you'd like to see me cover in future videos, definitely let me know in the comments below. Thank you again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'm going to leave you with the most important piece of advice I can give you, which is when you're doing mathematics, always ask why.